Hello, friend, and welcome back to Science for Sleep. Tonight, we'll rest together inside one of the most consistent and quietly fascinating rhythms of the human body, a state that appears every night without effort or instruction, known as REM sleep. Rather than focusing on how it feels or what it might seem like from the inside, we'll explore what science understands about what is happening beneath awareness as the brain and body move through this naturally occurring phase of rest. REM sleep is not something the body decides to enter consciously. It is a structured biological state that emerges as part of an ongoing sleep cycle, shaped by timing, chemistry, and neural coordination. Long before it was named or measured, REM sleep was already present, repeating night after night, across generations and across species. Science studies it not as a mystery to be solved quickly, but as a stable pattern that reveals how the brain organizes itself during rest. In this video, we'll gently explore what REM sleep actually is, how it fits into the larger architecture of sleep, and why it has remained so carefully preserved throughout evolution. We'll look at brain activity, muscle regulation, memory organization, and the subtle ways REM sleep supports balance over time. Nothing here requires attention or effort. The information is meant to unfold slowly, allowing curiosity to remain calm and unforced. If you enjoy these quiet journeys through science, you're welcome to subscribe. And if you feel comfortable, you can leave a comment sharing where you're listening from tonight. It helps others find their way to this calm space, one listener at a time. For now, you can allow the pace to slow even further, letting the details settle without needing to hold on to them. REM sleep does not need to be noticed to do its work. It arrives, unfolds, and fades on its own schedule, guided by rhythms older than thought. As we continue, we'll move gently through what science has learned about this state, not to reach a conclusion, but to rest inside understanding itself. For now, there is nothing to anticipate and nothing to remember, just the steady presence of time passing softly as the night continues. From a scientific perspective, REM sleep is defined by measurable biological patterns rather than subjective experience. It is one of several distinct stages that make up human sleep, each with its own recognizable features. Researchers identify REM sleep through specific changes in brain activity, muscle tone, and eye movement, all of which occur in a predictable and repeatable way across healthy individuals. The name REM sleep comes from the presence of rapid eye movements, which can be observed beneath closed eyelids during this stage. These movements are not random. They occur alongside shifts in neural activity that distinguish REM sleep from both wakefulness and other sleep stages. While the body remains at rest, the brain enters a state of organized activity that is neither fully awake nor fully dormant. Electrically, the brain during REM sleep shows patterns that resemble wakefulness more closely than deep non-REM sleep. Brain waves become faster and more varied, reflecting active communication between regions. At the same time, awareness does not return. Conscious interaction with the environment remains suspended, and sensory input from the outside world is largely gated. This combination of internal activity and external disconnection is one of the defining characteristics of REM sleep. Another key feature of REM sleep is the regulation of muscle activity. During this stage, most voluntary muscles are temporarily inhibited. This reduction in muscle tone is not a sign of weakness or shutdown, but a coordinated neurological process. Signals from the brainstem actively prevent large muscle movements, allowing the body to remain still, while internal neural activity continues. This mechanism is consistent and carefully controlled. Chemistry within the brain also shifts during REM sleep. Levels of certain neurotransmitters rise while others fall, creating an internal environment distinct from other stages of sleep. These chemical changes influence communication between neurons, shaping how information flows and how different brain regions interact. The result is a stable physiological state that the brain enters repeatedly each night. Importantly, REM sleep is not an isolated event. It does not occur once and then disappear until the next night. Instead, it appears in cycles, emerging, receding, and returning as sleep progresses. This cyclical nature suggests that REM sleep serves an ongoing role rather than a single function. Its timing and duration are regulated by internal clocks and feedback systems that monitor the body's overall state. Scientists emphasize that REM sleep is neither accidental nor optional. When REM sleep is consistently reduced, the brain often compensates by increasing its intensity or frequency on subsequent nights. This tendency, known as rebound, indicates that REM sleep fulfills needs that cannot be fully met by other sleep stages. Understanding what REM sleep actually is helps ground the discussion in observable biology. It is a defined physiological state with clear markers, governed by timing, coordination, and regulation. From here, it becomes natural to explore how REM sleep fits into the larger structure of sleep itself, and how these repeating stages form a rhythm that carries the brain and body through the night, one quiet cycle at a time. Human sleep is organized into a repeating structure rather than a single uniform state. Throughout the night, the brain and body move through a sequence of stages that together form what scientists call sleep architecture. This structure follows a reliable pattern, cycling multiple times from lighter stages of non-REM sleep into deeper stages, and then into REM sleep, before beginning again. Each full sleep cycle typically lasts around 90 minutes, though the exact duration can vary slightly between individuals and across different nights. Within each cycle, REM sleep occupies a specific position, emerging after the body has passed through earlier non-REM stages. This ordering is consistent across healthy sleepers, suggesting that REM sleep depends on changes that occur earlier in the cycle, rather than appearing independently. Non-REM sleep and REM sleep serve different roles within this architecture. Non-REM stages are associated with slower brain activity, reduced responsiveness, and physical restoration. As the cycle progresses, brain activity gradually changes, preparing the nervous system for the transition into REM sleep. Rather than switching abruptly, the brain shifts smoothly from one state to the next, guided by internal timing mechanisms. As the night continues, the balance between these stages changes. Early cycles contain longer periods of deep non-REM sleep, and shorter periods of REM sleep. Later cycles gradually shift, with REM sleep occupying a larger portion of each cycle. By the final cycles of the night, REM sleep may last significantly longer than it did at the beginning. This predictable progression reflects how the brain distributes different forms of rest across time. This architecture is regulated by overlapping biological systems. Circadian rhythms influence when sleep begins and ends, while internal sleep pressure shapes how deeply the brain rests. Together, these systems coordinate the timing and sequence of sleep stages, ensuring that REM sleep appears when the brain is prepared to enter it. Disruptions to this coordination can alter the structure of sleep, even if total sleep time remains unchanged. Importantly, the architecture of sleep is not consciously controlled. The brain transitions between stages automatically, without awareness or effort. Even when external conditions change, such as light or sound, the underlying structure often persists, adjusting gradually rather than collapsing. This stability highlights how deeply sleep architecture is embedded in neural regulation. Scientists study sleep architecture because it reveals how the brain organizes rest over extended periods. Rather than treating sleep as a passive shutdown, this view shows it as an active, dynamic process with distinct phases and timing. REM sleep is one part of this larger rhythm, positioned carefully within each cycle rather than occurring at random. Understanding sleep architecture provides context for everything that follows. It shows that REM sleep is not an isolated event, but part of a coordinated system that unfolds repeatedly across the night. From here, attention can move gently toward when REM sleep tends to appear within these cycles, and how its timing shifts as sleep progresses, shaping the quiet rhythm of rest from evening until morning. REM sleep does not appear at random during the night. It follows a reliable timing pattern that reflects how the brain gradually changes state as sleep unfolds. Rather than arriving immediately after falling asleep, REM sleep typically emerges after the body has passed through several stages of non-REM sleep. This delay is consistent across individuals and suggests that REM sleep depends on preparatory changes that occur earlier in the sleep cycle. In the first sleep cycle of the night, REM sleep is usually brief. It may last only a few minutes before the cycle resets and the brain returns to lighter stages of sleep. As additional cycles follow, REM sleep periods become progressively longer. By the later part of the night, REM sleep can occupy a substantial portion of each cycle, sometimes lasting several times longer than in the early cycles. This gradual expansion reflects an internal redistribution of sleep stages rather than a simple increase in overall activity. The timing of REM sleep is influenced by circadian rhythms, the internal clocks that regulate daily patterns in the body. These rhythms help determine not only when sleep begins, but also how sleep stages are arranged across the night. REM sleep is more likely to occur during the biological night, when circadian signals favor rest and internal processing. As morning approaches, these signals shift, and REM sleep naturally becomes more prominent before waking. Internal sleep pressure also plays a role. This pressure builds during waking hours and dissipates during sleep, particularly during deep non-REM stages. As sleep pressure decreases, the brain becomes more able to enter REM sleep. This interaction explains why REM sleep tends to be compressed early in the night and expanded later, following a predictable internal logic rather than external cues. Importantly, the appearance of REM sleep does not require uninterrupted sleep. Even when sleep is fragmented, the brain often attempts to preserve REM sleep by adjusting its timing. If REM sleep is delayed or reduced, it may appear sooner or more intensely in subsequent cycles. This adaptability highlights how strongly the brain regulates REM sleep timing, treating it as a necessary component of rest rather than an optional feature. Scientists observe similar timing patterns across many mammalian species, though the length and frequency of REM sleep vary. This cross-species consistency suggests that the timing of REM sleep is governed by fundamental biological principles rather than learned behavior. The brain appears to follow an internal schedule that balances different forms of rest across time. Understanding when REM sleep occurs helps remove mystery from the process. It shows that this stage arises from orderly transitions rather than spontaneous activation. REM sleep fits into the night like a recurring tide, growing and receding according to rhythms that unfold automatically, without attention or effort. As this timing pattern settles into view, it becomes easier to explore what the brain is actually doing during REM sleep. The next step lies in examining the unique patterns of neural activity that distinguish this stage from others, revealing how internal communication continues even as the body remains at rest. During REM sleep, the brain enters a state of organized internal activity that differs clearly from other stages of sleep. Although the body remains deeply at rest, neural communication becomes more active and complex. Scientists observe this activity through electrical recordings that reveal distinct patterns, allowing REM sleep to be identified reliably without relying on behavior or awareness. Electroencephalogram recordings show that brainwaves during REM sleep are generally faster and more varied than those seen in deep non-REM sleep. These patterns resemble those observed during quiet wakefulness, reflecting increased communication between different regions of the brain. Despite this similarity, the brain remains disconnected from external sensory input. Information from the outside world is largely filtered before reaching conscious processing centers, maintaining separation between internal activity and the environment. Several brain regions show heightened activity during REM sleep. Areas involved in emotion, memory processing, and visual integration often become more active, while regions responsible for executive control and decision-making remain less engaged. This uneven distribution of activity creates a state in which internal signals circulate freely without being guided by deliberate thought or external demands. Communication between neurons during REM sleep relies on carefully timed electrical and chemical signals. Networks oscillate in coordinated patterns, allowing information to be exchanged across distant regions. This coordination does not produce conscious awareness, but it does reflect structured processing rather than random firing. The brain is active, but its activity follows internal rhythms rather than responding to the outside world. The brainstem plays a central role in regulating this state. It helps initiate REM sleep and coordinates the signals that alter brainwave patterns and muscle tone. Through connections with other regions, the brainstem helps shift the brain into this distinctive mode of operation, maintaining stability while allowing internal activity to proceed. Importantly, the brain does not remain in this state indefinitely. After a period of REM sleep, neural activity gradually shifts again as the sleep cycle continues. This transition occurs smoothly, without abrupt changes, reflecting the brain's ability to move between different modes of operation with precision and control. Scientists emphasize that REM sleep brain activity is not chaotic. Although it differs from waking patterns, it follows consistent rules and timing. This predictability suggests that REM sleep supports specific biological needs, even if those needs are still being studied. The brain appears to use this state as an opportunity to reorganize internal signals without external interference. Understanding brain activity during REM sleep reveals that rest does not mean inactivity. The brain remains engaged, communicating within itself, while the body stays still. This quiet internal motion hints at why REM sleep has been preserved so carefully across species and time. As this picture settles, attention can move toward how this internal activity relates to memory and organization. The next layer of understanding lies in exploring how REM sleep contributes to arranging information gathered during waking life, allowing experiences to be integrated gently as the night continues. Although REM sleep has been studied for decades, science approaches its purpose with caution. Rather than assigning a single function, researchers understand REM sleep as a state that supports several overlapping processes. Its consistent appearance across species and its preservation even when sleep is disrupted suggests that it serves essential biological roles, yet those roles are subtle and distributed rather than centralized. One reason REM sleep is thought to exist is its contribution to internal regulation. During waking life, the brain continuously responds to external demands, adjusting attention, movement, and decision-making. REM sleep provides a period in which these external pressures are removed, allowing internal networks to operate without interruption. This separation creates conditions where signals can circulate freely, supporting coordination across different brain regions. REM sleep may also help balance neural activity that builds up during waking hours. Throughout the day, certain pathways are repeatedly activated, while others remain relatively quiet. Over time, this imbalance can strain communication systems. During REM sleep, patterns of activity shift, redistributing signaling across networks. Rather than strengthening specific responses, this process appears to promote flexibility, preventing any single pattern from becoming too rigid. Another perspective views REM sleep as a stabilizing phase. While non-REM sleep is associated with slowing and consolidation, REM sleep introduces variation into neural activity. This alternation between stability and variability may help maintain overall system health. Living systems often rely on controlled variation to remain adaptable, and REM sleep may provide that variation within a safe, regulated context. Researchers also note that REM sleep emerges reliably even when sleep time is reduced. When individuals experience shortened sleep, REM sleep often becomes denser or appears earlier in subsequent rest periods. This phenomenon suggests that REM sleep fulfills needs that cannot be fully compensated by other sleep stages. The brain appears to prioritize access to this state, adjusting timing to preserve it. Importantly, REM sleep does not operate in isolation. Its effects depend on its placement within the sleep cycle and its interaction with non-REM stages. Rather than serving as a standalone function, REM sleep contributes to a broader rhythm that unfolds across the night. Each stage prepares the conditions for the next, forming a coordinated sequence rather than a collection of independent events. Evolutionary evidence reinforces this view. REM sleep is present in most mammals and many birds, despite wide differences in brain size, behavior, and environment. This widespread presence suggests that REM sleep supports fundamental biological needs rather than specialized behaviors. Its persistence across millions of years indicates that removing it would place organisms at a disadvantage, even if the exact reasons vary by species. Understanding why REM sleep exists does not require assigning it a singular purpose. Instead, it invites a view of sleep as a system of interlocking states, each contributing quietly to overall balance. REM sleep appears to offer the brain a structured opportunity to reorganize, recalibrate, and maintain flexibility, all while the body remains safely at rest. As this understanding settles, the focus naturally shifts toward one of the most studied associations with REM sleep: its relationship with memory. The next step in this gentle exploration lies in examining how REM sleep supports the organization and integration of information without effort or awareness as the night continues to unfold. Memory is not stored in the brain as a single, fixed record. Instead, it exists as patterns of connection that shift and reorganize over time. During waking hours, experiences continuously activate networks of neurons, forming temporary associations as information is gathered. REM sleep appears to provide a period in which these associations can be gently reorganized, allowing the brain to integrate new material without interference from the outside world. Researchers observe that during REM sleep, communication between brain regions involved in memory becomes more fluid. Areas associated with emotional processing, sensory integration, and long-term storage show coordinated activity, while regions responsible for immediate decision-making remain less active. This arrangement allows memories to be revisited internally without triggering action or awareness, creating a space where information can be reshaped rather than reinforced rigidly. Rather than strengthening individual memories in isolation, REM sleep seems to support the linking of related experiences. Patterns formed during the day may be compared, blended, or repositioned within existing networks. This process helps the brain identify relationships between experiences, supporting general understanding rather than precise recall. Memory, in this sense, becomes more organized and less fragmented over time. Importantly, REM sleep does not appear to simply store memories as they occurred. Studies suggest that details may be softened while broader patterns are preserved. Emotional tone, contextual meaning, and relevance can be adjusted as memories are integrated. This does not erase information, but allows it to settle into a form that is more compatible with long-term stability. The timing of REM sleep within the night may also matter. Because REM sleep periods become longer toward morning, memory-related processing may be distributed across multiple cycles, allowing gradual refinement rather than abrupt change. Each REM sleep phase can contribute incrementally, adjusting connections a little at a time rather than reshaping them all at once. Scientists emphasize that memory organization during REM sleep is not deliberate. The brain does not choose which memories to process. Instead, activity patterns emerge naturally based on prior use and internal dynamics. Frequently activated networks may be more likely to participate, while less active ones remain quiet. This self-organizing behavior reflects the brain's tendency to optimize connections without conscious oversight. Memory organization is also influenced by balance. Non-REM sleep is often associated with stabilizing and consolidating information, while REM sleep introduces flexibility and integration. Together, these stages allow memories to become both durable and adaptable. Removing either component disrupts this balance, suggesting that REM sleep plays a distinct role that cannot be fully replaced. Understanding REM sleep as a phase of memory organization rather than storage helps clarify its contribution to mental continuity. Experiences gathered during the day are not lost when awareness fades. Instead, they are quietly repositioned within the brain's ongoing structure, allowing learning to persist without effort. As this idea settles, attention naturally moves toward another closely related process. Beyond organizing information, REM sleep also influences how emotional signals are regulated across time. The next step in this exploration lies in understanding how REM sleep supports emotional balance, gently shaping responses without conscious involvement. As the night continues its steady rhythm, emotional signals are woven deeply into how the brain processes experience. Throughout waking life, situations are tagged with emotional meaning, guiding attention, memory, and response. These signals help prioritize what matters, but they can also accumulate, especially when experiences are intense or repeated. REM sleep appears to offer a state in which emotional activity can be revisited and adjusted without triggering immediate reaction. During REM sleep, regions of the brain involved in emotion show distinct patterns of activity. Structures associated with emotional evaluation and memory remain active, while areas responsible for conscious control and deliberate response are less engaged. This imbalance allows emotional information to circulate internally without being acted upon. The brain can process emotional signals in a quieter context, separated from decision-making and behavior. Researchers suggest that this separation supports emotional calibration. Experiences from waking life may be revisited with reduced intensity, allowing their emotional charge to soften over time. Rather than erasing emotion, REM sleep appears to adjust how strongly emotional signals are linked to memory. This helps prevent emotional responses from becoming overly rigid or overwhelming, maintaining flexibility in how experiences are interpreted later. The chemical environment of the brain during REM sleep also differs from that of wakefulness. Certain signaling substances associated with alertness and stress are reduced, while others that support internal communication become more prominent. This shift creates conditions in which emotional processing can occur, without the same level of physiological arousal that accompanies waking states. The result is a calmer internal landscape for emotional signals to be reorganized. Importantly, emotional regulation during REM sleep does not require awareness or intention. The brain does not evaluate emotions consciously during this stage. Instead, regulation emerges from patterns of activity and interaction between regions. Emotional networks are influenced by how often they are activated and how they connect to other systems, allowing balance to emerge gradually across repeated REM sleep cycles. This process appears to unfold incrementally. Emotional signals are not fully resolved in a single night. Instead, each REM sleep period contributes a small adjustment, gently reshaping connections over time. This gradual approach aligns with how biological systems tend to operate, favoring stability through small changes rather than sudden shifts. Scientists also note that emotional regulation depends on the coordination of REM sleep with other sleep stages. Non-REM sleep supports physical restoration and stabilization, while REM sleep introduces flexibility and integration. Together, these stages create a rhythm that supports both emotional resilience and continuity. Understanding REM sleep as a contributor to emotional regulation helps explain why this stage is so carefully preserved by the brain. It offers a protected window in which emotional information can be processed without external demand. This quiet recalibration supports balance over time, allowing responses to remain adaptable rather than fixed. As this understanding settles, the focus naturally expands toward how REM sleep influences learning more broadly. Beyond memory and emotion, the brain must integrate patterns and skills acquired during waking life. The next step in this gentle exploration lies in examining how REM sleep supports learning and adaptation, quietly reinforcing the brain's ability to adjust across time and experience. Learning is not completed at the moment new information is encountered. During waking life, the brain gathers patterns, skills, and associations. But these initial traces are often fragile and incomplete. REM sleep appears to provide a state in which learning can be refined and integrated, allowing newly acquired information to become more stable without requiring attention or repetition. During REM sleep, neural networks involved in learning show coordinated activity that differs from both wakefulness and non-REM sleep. Rather than focusing on exact details, the brain appears to emphasize relationships between pieces of information. This allows general patterns to emerge, supporting understanding rather than simple recall. Learning, in this sense, becomes less about storing isolated facts and more about organizing connections across experiences. Researchers observed that REM sleep is particularly associated with the refinement of complex skills. Tasks that involve pattern recognition, spatial relationships, or creative problem-solving often show improvement after periods of sleep that include sufficient REM sleep. This improvement does not require conscious practice during rest. Instead, internal reactivation of neural pathways allows skills to be adjusted and strengthened quietly. REM sleep may also help reduce interference between similar pieces of information. When learning multiple related tasks, overlap between neural representations can cause confusion. During REM sleep, activity patterns can be reorganized. allowing overlapping information to be separated more clearly. This process supports flexibility, enabling the brain to adapt without becoming locked into a single response pattern. The timing of REM sleep within the night may influence how learning unfolds. Because REM sleep periods lengthen toward morning, opportunities for integration increase as sleep continues. This gradual expansion allows learning-related adjustments to occur incrementally, reducing the risk of destabilizing existing knowledge. The brain refines what it has learned a little at a time, aligning new information with established structures. Importantly, REM sleep does not operate alone in supporting learning. Non-REM sleep contributes by stabilizing newly formed connections, while REM sleep introduces reorganization and abstraction. Together, these stages create a balanced process in which learning becomes both durable and adaptable. Removing either stage can disrupt this balance, highlighting the complementary roles they play. Learning during REM sleep is not selective in a deliberate sense. The brain does not choose what to improve. Instead, networks that were active during waking life are more likely to be revisited. Frequently used pathways receive more adjustment, while less active ones remain relatively unchanged. This self-organizing approach allows learning to reflect real patterns of use rather than imposed priorities. Understanding the role of REM sleep in learning reinforces the idea that rest is an active part of adaptation. Skills and knowledge do not simply pause when awareness fades. They continue to evolve quietly, shaped by internal rhythms rather than conscious effort. REM sleep provides a protected context in which this evolution can occur without interruption. As this idea settles, attention naturally turns toward another distinctive feature of REM sleep: the regulation of the body itself. While the brain remains active, the body enters a state of stillness that is carefully controlled. The next step in this exploration lies in understanding how REM sleep manages muscle activity and why this temporary inhibition plays an important role in maintaining safety and balance during rest. One of the most distinctive physical features of REM sleep is a temporary reduction in muscle activity throughout the body. During this stage, most voluntary muscles become deeply relaxed, creating a state known as muscle atonia. This change does not affect essential functions such as breathing or heart activity, but it significantly limits large, purposeful movements. Rather than being a passive shutdown, this paralysis is an active and carefully regulated neurological process. The brainstem plays a central role in producing this effect. Specific regions send inhibitory signals down the spinal cord, reducing the ability of motor neurons to activate muscles. These signals prevent most voluntary muscle contractions from occurring, even though the brain itself remains active. This coordination allows internal neural activity to continue without being translated into physical movement. Scientists understand muscle paralysis during REM sleep as a protective mechanism. While internal brain activity increases, the body is kept still, reducing the risk of unintended movement. This separation between internal processing and external action helps preserve safety and stability during rest. The mechanism is so consistent that its presence is used as a defining marker of REM sleep in sleep studies. Small movements can still occur. Brief twitches of the face, fingers, or toes are sometimes observed. These movements are not signs of waking, but minor releases within the broader pattern of inhibition. They reflect the complexity of motor regulation rather than a failure of the system. Overall muscle tone remains significantly reduced until the REM sleep phase ends. This paralysis is temporary and reversible. As the sleep cycle progresses and the brain transitions out of REM sleep, inhibitory signals are withdrawn. Muscle tone gradually returns, allowing movement to resume without abrupt changes. The smoothness of this transition reflects the brain's ability to shift between states with precision. When this regulatory system does not function as intended, the boundaries between REM sleep and movement can blur. Researchers study such cases carefully, not because they are common, but because they reveal how precisely muscle control is normally maintained. These observations reinforce the idea that muscle paralysis during REM sleep is not incidental, but essential to the structure of sleep. Importantly, this inhibition does not represent loss of control. It is a controlled state maintained by active signaling rather than absence of signal. The brain chooses stillness during REM sleep, allowing internal processes to unfold without interference from the body's motor systems. Understanding muscle paralysis during REM sleep highlights how carefully sleep is regulated. Even when awareness fades, coordination remains. Systems responsible for movement, sensation, and balance continue to communicate, adjusting their roles according to the needs of each stage. As this understanding settles, attention can move toward what happens when REM sleep is reduced or altered. The next step in this exploration lies in examining how the brain responds when access to REM sleep is limited, and what this reveals about its importance within the larger rhythm of rest. When REM sleep is reduced or delayed, the brain does not remain neutral to the change. Instead, it responds in quiet and predictable ways, revealing how strongly this stage is regulated. Researchers observe that when REM sleep is limited, either through disrupted sleep cycles or shortened rest periods, the brain often attempts to restore it later. This response suggests that REM sleep fulfills biological needs that are monitored internally rather than determined by habit or awareness. One common response to reduced REM sleep is a phenomenon known as REM sleep rebound. During subsequent sleep periods, REM sleep may appear sooner, last longer, or occur more frequently within each cycle. This adjustment happens automatically, without conscious control. The brain reallocates time within sleep architecture to compensate for what was missed, often prioritizing REM sleep over other stages when total sleep time is limited. Studies also show that reduced REM sleep can alter how efficiently the brain processes information. Memory organization, emotional regulation, and learning integration may become less coordinated when REM sleep is consistently restricted. These changes are not sudden or dramatic, but gradual, reflecting the cumulative nature of sleep-related processes. The brain continues to function, but some internal adjustments may take longer to settle. Physiological balance can also be affected. REM sleep is associated with shifts in autonomic activity, including regulation of heart rate and breathing patterns. When REM sleep is reduced, these regulatory patterns may become less regular during rest, subtly influencing how the body transitions between states. Over time, this can contribute to a feeling of imbalance, even when total sleep duration appears sufficient. Importantly, the effects of reduced REM sleep depend on context and duration. Short-term reductions are often well tolerated, especially when followed by recovery sleep. The brain's flexibility allows it to adapt temporarily without lasting disruption. It is persistent or repeated limitation that reveals the importance of REM sleep most clearly, as compensation becomes more pronounced. Scientists also emphasize that reduced REM sleep does not occur in isolation. Disruptions that affect REM sleep often influence other sleep stages as well, altering the overall architecture of rest. This makes it difficult to attribute changes to REM sleep alone. Instead, researchers study patterns across the entire sleep cycle, observing how the system responds as a whole. The brain's response to reduced REM sleep highlights a central theme of sleep biology. Sleep stages are not interchangeable. Each contributes uniquely to balance and coordination. When one is limited, the system adjusts, not by eliminating the need, but by seeking to restore it over time. Understanding what happens when REM sleep is reduced helps clarify its role without invoking urgency or concern. It shows that REM sleep is actively maintained by the brain, woven into the structure of rest rather than added on. From here, attention naturally turns toward how REM sleep changes across the human lifespan, and what those changes reveal about development, aging, and long-term regulation of sleep over time. REM sleep is present throughout human life, but its proportion and structure change gradually over time. These changes follow predictable patterns that reflect development, maturation, and aging rather than disruption. By observing how REM sleep shifts across the lifespan, scientists gain insight into how the brain's needs evolve while maintaining a stable underlying rhythm. In early infancy, REM sleep occupies a much larger portion of total sleep time than it does in adulthood. Newborns can spend nearly half of their sleep in REM sleep, distributed evenly across day and night. At this stage of life, sleep cycles are shorter and less consolidated, and REM sleep appears frequently. Researchers associate this abundance with rapid brain development, as neural networks are forming and reorganizing at a remarkable pace. As childhood progresses, the proportion of REM sleep gradually decreases. Sleep becomes more consolidated into nighttime hours, and cycles lengthen. REM sleep remains a regular component of each cycle, but its overall share of total sleep time stabilizes. This shift reflects changes in brain development as foundational structures become more established and the pace of large-scale reorganization slows. During adolescence and early adulthood, REM sleep reaches a relatively stable pattern. It continues to appear cyclically throughout the night, expanding toward morning as sleep progresses. At this stage, the balance between REM sleep and non-REM sleep supports both learning and long-term maintenance. While external factors such as schedule and environment can influence sleep timing, the internal structure of REM sleep remains remarkably consistent. As people age, subtle changes in REM sleep can occur. Total sleep time may decrease, and sleep may become more fragmented. REM sleep periods can shorten slightly or shift in timing, often appearing earlier in the night. These changes do not indicate loss of REM sleep, but adaptation within a changing system. The brain continues to prioritize REM sleep, adjusting its placement within the available sleep window. Importantly, variability increases with age. Some individuals maintain robust REM sleep patterns well into later life, while others experience more noticeable shifts. Genetics, health, and long-term habits all influence how REM sleep is expressed. This variability highlights that aging does not follow a single path, even when underlying biological mechanisms are shared. Across all stages of life, REM sleep remains regulated rather than random. Its persistence from infancy through old age suggests that it supports fundamental processes required at every stage, even as those processes change in emphasis. Development, learning, and maintenance all draw on REM sleep in different ways, but none eliminate the need for it. Viewing REM sleep across the lifespan reveals continuity rather than decline. The brain adjusts how it uses this state, redistributing time and emphasis without abandoning the pattern. This adaptability reflects the resilience of sleep architecture and its ability to support changing biological priorities. As this perspective settles, attention naturally expands beyond humans. REM sleep is not unique to our species. The next step in this exploration lies in examining how REM sleep appears in other animals, and what its widespread presence reveals about its evolutionary origins and fundamental role in living systems. REM sleep is not limited to humans. Scientists have identified clear signs of REM sleep across a wide range of animal species, suggesting that this stage of sleep emerged early in evolutionary history and has been preserved because it supports essential biological functions. While the exact expression of REM sleep varies between species, its core features remain recognizable, pointing to shared underlying mechanisms. Most mammals exhibit REM sleep, though the amount and timing differ significantly. Smaller mammals, such as rodents, tend to experience shorter but more frequent periods of REM sleep throughout the day and night. Larger mammals often have longer sleep cycles, with REM sleep appearing less frequently but lasting longer within each cycle. These differences reflect variations in metabolism, brain size, and environmental demands, rather than fundamental differences in function. Birds also show evidence of REM sleep, despite having brain structures that differ from those of mammals. In birds, REM sleep periods are typically brief and fragmented, sometimes lasting only seconds at a time. Even so, the defining features of REM sleep, including reduced muscle tone and specific brain activity patterns, are present. This convergence suggests that REM sleep fulfills needs that transcend specific brain architectures. Marine mammals offer particularly interesting examples. Some species, such as dolphins, sleep using a pattern known as unihemispheric sleep, where one half of the brain rests while the other remains active. In these animals, REM sleep appears to be greatly reduced or altered. Scientists believe this adaptation allows them to surface for air and remain alert to their environment. Despite this modification, elements resembling REM sleep activity can still be detected, indicating that its functions may be partially preserved in different forms. Reptiles and amphibians show sleep-like states that share some features with REM sleep, though the classification is less clear. Research in these groups is ongoing, and scientists approach conclusions cautiously. Still, the presence of alternating sleep states across such diverse species suggests that dividing rest into multiple phases is a common biological strategy, rather than a recent innovation. The widespread presence of REM sleep implies that it supports functions valuable across many forms of life. Evolution tends to eliminate unnecessary processes, especially those that require energy and coordination. The fact that REM sleep persists across millions of years and varied environments suggests that removing it would place organisms at a disadvantage, even if the precise role differs by species. Importantly, animals do not require conscious awareness for REM sleep to occur. The mechanisms that generate it are deeply embedded in neural regulation, operating automatically. This universality reinforces the idea that REM sleep is a fundamental property of complex nervous systems, rather than a feature tied to human cognition or experience. Studying REM sleep in animals helps scientists understand which aspects are essential and which are flexible. Variation across species reveals how REM sleep can be shaped by ecological pressures while maintaining its core characteristics. These comparisons provide insight into how sleep supports survival, learning, and stability in diverse environments. As this broader view settles, attention naturally turns inward again, toward the chemistry that supports REM sleep at the cellular level. Beneath the observable patterns of brain activity and movement lie subtle shifts in signaling molecules that guide transitions between sleep states. The next step in this exploration lies in understanding the chemical environment of REM sleep and how it quietly shapes communication within the brain as rest continues. Beneath the visible patterns of brain activity and muscle regulation, REM sleep is shaped by a carefully balanced chemical environment. Transitions into and out of REM sleep are guided by shifts in signaling molecules that influence how neurons communicate. These changes do not occur suddenly. They unfold gradually, allowing the brain to move smoothly between states without disruption. Different groups of neurotransmitters rise and fall in coordinated ways during REM sleep. Substances associated with alertness and directed attention are reduced, lowering the brain's responsiveness to external input. At the same time, other signaling systems become more prominent, supporting internal communication across wide networks. This combination creates conditions in which information can circulate internally, while awareness remains suspended. One of the defining chemical features of REM sleep is the altered balance between excitatory and inhibitory signaling. Neurons continue to exchange signals, but the overall tone of communication shifts. This helps produce the distinctive patterns of activity observed during this stage, allowing some regions to become highly active, while others remain relatively quiet. The result is a state that is internally dynamic, yet externally disconnected. These chemical shifts also contribute to muscle inhibition. Signals originating in the brainstem influence neurotransmitter release in pathways that control movement, reducing the ability of motor neurons to activate muscles. This process is chemical as well as electrical, relying on precise timing and coordination. The same substances that shape brain activity during REM sleep help ensure that the body remains still. Importantly, the chemistry of REM sleep is reversible. As sleep cycles progress, signaling levels adjust again, allowing the brain to transition back into non-REM sleep or toward waking. This flexibility shows that REM sleep is not a locked condition, but a temporary configuration maintained through ongoing regulation. The brain continuously monitors its internal state, adjusting chemistry to support each phase of rest. Researchers study these chemical patterns not to isolate a single cause, but to understand how systems interact. No single molecule produces REM sleep on its own. Instead, it emerges from the combined influence of multiple signaling pathways working together. This distributed control adds stability, ensuring that REM sleep can occur reliably, even when conditions vary. Changes in chemical regulation also help explain why REM sleep is sensitive to disruption. Factors that alter neurotransmitter balance can shift the timing or intensity of REM sleep, even when total sleep time appears unchanged. The brain responds by adjusting other systems to restore balance, reflecting the interconnected nature of sleep regulation. Understanding the chemistry of REM sleep reinforces the idea that this stage is actively maintained. It is not a passive consequence of rest, but a distinct state supported by precise internal conditions. These chemical rhythms allow the brain to explore different modes of operation safely, without losing overall coordination. As this layer of understanding settles, attention can move toward how REM sleep supports development, especially during periods of rapid growth and change. The next step in this exploration lies in examining the role of REM sleep in brain development and why its abundance early in life reveals something fundamental about how nervous systems organize themselves over time. During periods of rapid growth and change, REM sleep appears with striking regularity. In early life, when the brain is forming new connections at an extraordinary pace, REM sleep occupies a much larger portion of total sleep time than it does later on. This pattern has led scientists to explore how REM sleep supports development, not by directing it consciously, but by providing conditions that allow neural systems to organize themselves efficiently. In infancy, the brain is actively wiring itself. Neurons are forming connections, pruning unused pathways, and adjusting signaling strength in response to experience. REM sleep provides a state in which this activity can continue without external interruption. Sensory input is reduced, movement is limited, and internal communication becomes the primary focus. These conditions allow developing networks to stabilize and refine their structure in a protected environment. Researchers suggest that REM sleep may help guide the formation of basic neural circuits. During early development, many connections are formed in excess and later refined. REM sleep may support this refinement by allowing patterns of activity to replay and adjust without immediate behavioral demands. This replay does not require awareness. It reflects automatic processes that shape connectivity based on use and coordination. The high proportion of REM sleep in infants also aligns with the immaturity of sensory systems before vision, hearing, and motor control are fully developed. The brain relies heavily on internally generated activity to guide growth. REM sleep provides a consistent source of such activity, offering signals that help organize developing regions even before extensive interaction with the environment occurs. As childhood progresses, the brain structure becomes more established, and the need for large-scale reorganization decreases. Correspondingly, the proportion of REM sleep gradually declines. This shift does not indicate reduced importance, but changing emphasis. REM sleep continues to support refinement and integration, but at a pace appropriate for a more mature system. Developmental studies also show that disruptions to REM sleep during critical periods can influence how neural circuits form. These observations reinforce the idea that REM sleep contributes to timing and coordination, rather than specific outcomes. It helps ensure that development proceeds smoothly, without dictating exact patterns. Importantly, REM sleep does not act alone in shaping development. It works in concert with non-REM sleep, waking experience, and environmental input. Together, these factors guide the brain's growth in a balanced way. REM sleep provides the internal space for adjustment, while waking life supplies the material to be integrated. Understanding the role of REM sleep in brain development highlights its function as a facilitator rather than a driver. It does not instruct the brain what to become, but helps create conditions in which organization can emerge naturally. This perspective removes urgency and replaces it with appreciation for the quiet processes unfolding beneath awareness. As this understanding settles, attention naturally turns toward how REM sleep continues to support adaptability beyond development. Even in adulthood, the brain remains capable of change. The next step in this exploration lies in examining how REM sleep contributes to neural plasticity, allowing learning and adjustment to continue gently across the lifespan. Even after development slows, the brain does not become fixed. It remains capable of change throughout life, adjusting its connections in response to experience, learning, and environment. This ability to adapt is known as neural plasticity, and REM sleep appears to play a quiet but important role in supporting it. Rather than driving change directly, REM sleep provides conditions that allow plasticity to occur smoothly and without strain. During waking life, neural circuits are shaped by repeated use. Pathways that are activated frequently become more efficient, while those that are rarely used may weaken. This ongoing adjustment allows the brain to remain responsive, but it can also create imbalance if certain patterns become too dominant. REM sleep introduces a different mode of activity, one that loosens rigid patterns and allows connections to be reweighted gently. Researchers observe that during REM sleep, the brain explores a wider range of activity patterns than it does during focused waking states. This variability may help prevent networks from becoming overly specialized or locked into narrow responses. By allowing signals to circulate more freely, REM sleep supports flexibility, making it easier for the brain to adapt when new information or challenges arise. Plasticity depends not only on forming new connections, but on maintaining balance between stability and change. Too much change can disrupt function, while too little can limit learning. REM sleep appears to contribute to this balance by providing a context in which adjustments can occur without destabilizing established networks. Changes made during REM sleep tend to be subtle, accumulating gradually across nights rather than appearing abruptly. Chemical conditions during REM sleep also support plasticity. Shifts in neurotransmitter balance influence how strongly connections are modified. These conditions favor reorganization and integration, rather than reinforcement of specific responses. This allows learning to remain adaptable, supporting long-term adjustment rather than short-term fixation. Importantly, REM sleep does not operate independently. Its effects on plasticity are shaped by what occurred during waking life and by interactions with non-REM sleep. Experiences that activate certain networks increase the likelihood that those networks will be revisited during REM sleep. In this way, REM sleep reflects the brain's recent history while gently shaping its future responses. Neural plasticity supported by REM sleep is not limited to learning new skills. It also contributes to maintaining resilience, allowing the brain to adjust to gradual changes in physiology and environment. This ongoing adaptability helps preserve function over time, even as other systems shift. Understanding REM sleep as a supporter of plasticity reinforces its role as a stabilizing influence rather than a source of disruption. It allows the brain to remain flexible without sacrificing coherence, adapting quietly as life unfolds. This perspective highlights why REM sleep remains relevant well beyond childhood, continuing to shape how the brain responds to experience across the entire lifespan. As this understanding settles, attention naturally moves toward factors that can interfere with REM sleep. The next step in this exploration lies in examining what can disrupt REM sleep patterns and how these disruptions reveal the delicate coordination required to maintain balanced rest over time. Although REM sleep is carefully regulated, it can be influenced by a range of internal and external factors. These influences do not eliminate REM sleep entirely, but they can alter its timing, duration, or distribution within the night. Studying these disruptions helps scientists understand how finely balanced sleep architecture is and how REM sleep depends on coordination across multiple systems rather than a single trigger. Changes to daily rhythms are one common influence. When sleep schedules shift, the alignment between circadian timing and sleep pressure can be disrupted. REM sleep, which is closely tied to circadian signals, may appear earlier, later, or in shorter segments as the brain adapts to the new timing. These adjustments reflect flexibility rather than failure, as the system attempts to preserve structure under changing conditions. Physiological factors can also affect REM sleep. Variations in neurotransmitter balance, hormone levels, and overall neural excitability can shift how easily the brain enters or maintains this state. Because REM sleep depends on precise chemical coordination, even subtle changes can influence its expression. The brain responds by redistributing sleep stages rather than abandoning them. Environmental conditions play a role as well. Light exposure, temperature, and noise can all influence sleep continuity. When sleep becomes fragmented, REM sleep may be interrupted or delayed. In response, the brain often compensates by increasing REM sleep intensity or prioritizing it later. This adaptability highlights how strongly REM sleep is protected within the overall system. Psychological and cognitive demands can influence REM sleep indirectly. Experiences that heavily engage emotional or cognitive networks during waking life may increase the likelihood that these networks remain active during subsequent REM sleep periods. This does not guarantee longer REM sleep, but it can shape how REM sleep is expressed internally, reflecting the brain's recent activity. Importantly, disruptions to REM sleep rarely occur in isolation. Factors that affect REM sleep often influence other stages of sleep as well, altering the overall rhythm rather than a single component. This interconnectedness makes sleep resilient, but also complex, as adjustments in one area ripple across the entire cycle. Researchers emphasize that short-term disruptions are a normal part of life. The brain is equipped to adapt, restoring balance over subsequent nights. Persistent disruptions, however, provide insight into how essential coordination is for maintaining stable REM sleep patterns over time. These observations deepen understanding without implying urgency or concern. Studying disruptions to REM sleep reinforces a central theme. Sleep is not fragile, but it is responsive. REM sleep persists not because conditions are always perfect, but because the brain continually adjusts to preserve it. This responsiveness allows rest to remain effective, even as circumstances change. As this understanding settles, attention naturally turns toward how REM sleep compares with other stages of sleep. The next step in this exploration lies in examining the relationship between REM sleep and non-REM sleep, and how these states work together to support balance, continuity, and quiet restoration across the night. Sleep unfolds through a coordinated alternation between REM sleep and non-REM sleep, rather than through isolated stages operating independently. Each state contributes differently to rest, and their interaction forms the rhythm that carries the brain and body through the night. Understanding this relationship helps clarify why sleep remains balanced even as its components shift. Non-REM sleep is generally associated with slower brain activity and reduced responsiveness. During these stages, the body emphasizes physical restoration, energy conservation, and stabilization of neural activity. Brain waves become more synchronized, reflecting a state of collective slowing across large regions. This environment supports consolidation and maintenance, providing a foundation for stability. REM sleep introduces a contrasting mode. Brain activity becomes more varied, communication between regions increases, and internal signaling becomes more dynamic. Rather than stabilizing existing patterns, REM sleep allows for reorganization and integration. These differences are not oppositional, but complementary. Stability and flexibility are both required for long-term balance, and sleep provides space for each in turn. The transition between non-REM sleep and REM sleep is gradual and regulated. The brain does not switch abruptly between states. Instead, chemical and electrical signals shift incrementally, preparing networks for the next phase. This smooth progression prevents disruption and allows each stage to build on the effects of the previous one. Researchers often describe non-REM sleep as supporting precision and REM sleep as supporting generalization. Non-REM sleep helps reinforce specific connections, while REM sleep helps link those connections into broader patterns. Together, they allow information to become both reliable and adaptable. Removing either component can disrupt this balance, leading to rigidity or instability over time. the proportion of REM sleep and non-REM sleep changes across the night, but their relationship remains intact. Early in the night, non-REM sleep dominates, supporting deep restoration. Later, REM sleep becomes more prominent, supporting integration and adjustment. This progression reflects the brain's shifting priorities as sleep pressure decreases and circadian signals evolve. Importantly, REM sleep and non-REM sleep are regulated by overlapping systems rather than separate controls. Changes that influence one stage often influence the other, prompting coordinated adjustment rather than isolated change. This interdependence adds resilience, allowing the sleep system to adapt to varying conditions while preserving its core structure. Viewing sleep as an interplay between REM sleep and non-REM sleep reveals its dynamic nature. Rest is not a single process, but a sequence of complementary states, each contributing quietly to overall balance. REM sleep gains meaning not in isolation, but as part of this larger rhythm that unfolds automatically across time. As this understanding settles, attention naturally turns toward how REM sleep changes later in life. Aging introduces gradual shifts in physiology and rhythm, and sleep adapts accordingly. The next step in this exploration lies in examining how REM sleep evolves with aging and what these changes reveal about long-term regulation of the brain and body. As the body and brain change over time, sleep adapts in quiet and gradual ways. REM sleep remains a consistent feature throughout adulthood, but its expression can shift subtly as aging progresses. These changes reflect adaptation rather than loss, revealing how the brain adjusts its rhythms to meet evolving biological needs. In later adulthood, total sleep time often decreases slightly, and sleep may become more fragmented. REM sleep does not disappear in response to these changes. Instead, it is redistributed. Periods of REM sleep may occur earlier in the night or appear in shorter segments spread across cycles. This redistribution allows the brain to preserve access to REM sleep within a changing sleep window. Researchers observe that the relative proportion of REM sleep compared to non-REM sleep may remain surprisingly stable in many individuals, even as sleep architecture shifts. This stability suggests that the brain continues to prioritize REM sleep, adjusting its timing rather than eliminating it. Variability between individuals increases with age, influenced by genetics, health, and long-term patterns, but the underlying regulatory mechanisms remain intact. Aging also brings gradual changes in neural signaling and chemical balance. These shifts can influence how easily the brain enters REM sleep and how long it remains there. Rather than signaling dysfunction, these changes reflect the brain's ongoing effort to maintain coordination across systems that are slowly evolving. REM sleep adapts alongside these changes, remaining integrated within the larger sleep rhythm. Importantly, the functions supported by REM sleep also change in emphasis with age. While early life emphasizes development and learning, later life emphasizes maintenance and resilience. REM sleep continues to support integration and flexibility, helping the brain adjust to gradual physiological changes and preserve continuity over time. Scientists emphasize that aging-related changes in REM sleep are not uniform. Some individuals maintain robust REM sleep patterns well into later decades, while others experience more noticeable shifts. This diversity reflects the adaptability of the sleep system rather than its fragility. Sleep remains responsive, adjusting to individual circumstances rather than following a single path. Understanding REM sleep and aging helps remove the idea of decline as an abrupt process. Instead, sleep shows continuity through adjustment. REM sleep remains present, reshaped to fit new conditions, while preserving its role within the overall rhythm of rest. As this perspective settles, attention naturally turns toward the stability of REM sleep over longer spans of time. Despite changes across nights, years, and decades, REM sleep remains one of the most consistent features of human sleep. The next step in this exploration lies in examining the long-term stability of REM sleep and what this persistence reveals about how deeply it is embedded in biological regulation. Across nights, seasons, and decades, REM sleep remains one of the most stable elements of human sleep. While the exact timing and duration of REM sleep can shift in response to age, environment, and routine, the underlying pattern persists with remarkable consistency. This long-term stability suggests that REM sleep is not a flexible add-on, but a deeply embedded feature of biological regulation. Researchers studying sleep over extended periods observe that even when daily schedules vary, REM sleep continues to emerge in predictable cycles. The brain adjusts when REM sleep occurs, but it rarely removes it altogether. This persistence indicates that REM sleep is monitored internally, with the brain tracking its presence and compensating when it is reduced. Over time, this regulation helps maintain balance despite short-term disruptions. Long-term studies also show that individuals tend to have characteristic REM sleep patterns. While these patterns can adapt, they often return to a personal baseline once conditions stabilize. This suggests that REM sleep is shaped by both universal biological rules and individual traits. Genetics, early development, and long-standing habits all contribute to how REM sleep is expressed. Yet the fundamental structure remains shared. The stability of REM sleep is further reflected in how the brain responds to prolonged changes. When routines shift for weeks or months, sleep architecture gradually adapts rather than breaking down. REM sleep continues to appear within this adapted structure, integrated smoothly with other stages. This gradual adjustment reflects the brain's preference for continuity over abrupt change. Scientists note that REM sleep stability is maintained even as other physiological systems evolve. Metabolism, hormone regulation, and sensory processing all change over time. Yet REM sleep continues to unfold nightly. This endurance suggests that REM sleep supports core processes required across the lifespan, independent of changing external demands. Importantly, stability does not mean rigidity. REM sleep remains responsive to context, adjusting its timing and distribution as needed. This balance between consistency and flexibility allows the brain to preserve essential functions while adapting to new conditions. Stability, in this sense, reflects resilience rather than resistance. Viewing REM sleep through the lens of long-term stability helps clarify its role within sleep as a whole. It is not a transient feature tied to specific life stages or circumstances. Instead, it forms a steady rhythm that accompanies the brain throughout life, adapting quietly while maintaining its core structure. As this understanding settles, attention naturally turns toward regulation itself. Stability emerges because REM sleep is not left to chance. The next step in this exploration lies in examining why REM sleep is so carefully regulated and how the brain ensures that this stage appears reliably night after night, guided by internal systems that operate without awareness or effort. The consistency of REM sleep across nights and across lives is not accidental. It reflects active regulation by the brain, guided by interconnected systems that monitor internal state, timing, and balance. Rather than allowing REM sleep to emerge unpredictably, the brain maintains tight control over when and how this stage appears, ensuring that it remains integrated within the larger rhythm of rest. Multiple regulatory centers contribute to this control. Regions within the brainstem, hypothalamus, and midbrain exchange signals that influence transitions between sleep stages. These regions do not operate independently. Instead, they form networks that continuously adjust activity levels based on chemical signals, circadian timing, and sleep pressure. REM sleep emerges when these signals align, creating conditions that support its distinctive features. One reason for careful regulation is the complexity of REM sleep itself. This stage involves simultaneous activation and inhibition across different systems. The brain must increase internal neural activity while suppressing muscle movement and sensory input. Achieving this balance requires precise coordination. Without regulation, these opposing processes could interfere with one another, disrupting stability. Timing is another critical factor. REM sleep tends to occur at specific points within the sleep cycle, particularly later in the night. This placement reflects interactions between circadian rhythms and accumulated sleep pressure. The brain tracks both signals continuously, adjusting the likelihood of entering REM sleep based on the overall context of rest. Regulation ensures that REM sleep appears when it can be most effective without overwhelming other stages. Feedback mechanisms also play a role. When REM sleep is reduced, internal signals increase the drive to enter this stage later. This feedback helps maintain long-term balance, preventing chronic loss of REM sleep even when sleep patterns vary. The presence of such mechanisms highlights that REM sleep is not optional from the brain's perspective, but a state whose absence is detected and corrected over time. Importantly, regulation does not require awareness. These processes operate automatically, guided by chemical gradients and neural circuits, rather than conscious control. The brain does not decide to regulate REM sleep. Regulation emerges from the structure of the system itself, shaped by evolution to maintain coordination during rest. Careful regulation also allows REM sleep to adapt. By monitoring internal conditions, the brain can adjust REM sleep expression in response to change without abandoning the pattern entirely. This adaptability supports resilience, allowing sleep to remain functional across diverse environments and life stages. Understanding why REM sleep is carefully regulated reinforces its role as a foundational component of sleep. It is maintained not by habit, but by active biological systems that prioritize balance and continuity. This perspective shifts attention away from outcomes and toward process, revealing sleep as a living rhythm rather than a passive state. As this understanding settles, the exploration begins to widen. Beyond regulation and function, REM sleep exists within a broader context of time and rhythm. The next step lies in allowing these ideas to soften, moving away from analysis and toward integration. As the night continues, and attention gently drifts. After moving through structure, regulation, and function, it can be helpful to allow the details of REM sleep to soften and settle. Science does not always aim to resolve a subject completely. Often, its value lies in revealing patterns that can be held lightly, without needing to be traced back step by step. REM sleep is one of those patterns, present night after night, doing its work without calling for attention. All of the processes described so far occur without awareness. The brain does not announce transitions, measure cycles, or reflect on regulation. REM sleep unfolds quietly, guided by systems that evolved long before language or thought. Knowing this allows the information to rest rather than accumulate. There is nothing here to apply, remember, or monitor. The facts exist independently of effort. When viewed as a whole, REM sleep appears less like a discrete event and more like a recurring phase in a continuous flow. Brain activity rises and falls, chemistry shifts, muscles relax, and timing adjusts, all as part of a single rhythm. No part operates alone. Each change prepares the way for the next, forming a smooth progression rather than a series of stops and starts. Science approaches REM sleep by observing what remains consistent across time and variation. Despite differences in age, species, and environment, the core features persist. This persistence suggests that REM sleep supports balance at a fundamental level, maintaining coordination within complex systems rather than producing specific outcomes. It is enough that the process continues. Allowing the science to settle means stepping back from explanation and letting the pattern stand on its own. The brain will continue to enter REM sleep tonight, regardless of understanding. Regulation will proceed without instruction. Cycles will repeat without supervision. The knowledge does not change the process, and the process does not depend on the knowledge. In this way, REM sleep mirrors many natural rhythms. It does not require participation. It simply unfolds. Attention can loosen its grip on structure and sequence, allowing ideas to drift into the background where they belong. Understanding becomes part of the environment rather than the focus. As the night continues, there is no need to follow the stages or anticipate transitions. REM sleep will arrive and pass as it always does, supported by systems that do not need awareness to function. The science has done its part by describing the pattern. Now the pattern can remain quiet and complete, without further examination. From here, the exploration naturally moves toward rest itself. The remaining moments are not for explanation, but for ease. As thought slows and the steady rhythm of sleep continues, carrying the brain gently forward without effort. It can be tempting to think of REM sleep as a single event that happens once per night. But science shows that this stage is better understood as a repeating process rather than a fixed destination. REM sleep unfolds multiple times across the night, returning in cycles that vary slightly in length and intensity. Each appearance builds on what came before, contributing incrementally rather than completing its work all at once. Within each sleep cycle, REM sleep emerges gradually and then recedes, making room for other stages before returning again later. This repetition suggests that the brain does not treat REM sleep as something to be finished, but as a state to be revisited. Instead of accomplishing a single task, REM sleep supports ongoing regulation that benefits from repetition and variation over time. Researchers observe that no two REM sleep periods are exactly alike. Early REM sleep phases tend to be shorter and more restrained, while later ones become longer and more internally active. These differences are not accidental. They reflect changing internal conditions as sleep pressure decreases and circadian signals shift. REM sleep adapts to the broader context of the night rather than following a rigid script. This repeated structure allows the brain to make gradual adjustments rather than abrupt changes. Memory organization, emotional calibration, and neural flexibility do not require a single extended window. Instead, they appear to benefit from multiple passes, each subtly refining internal patterns. REM sleep offers the brain several opportunities to revisit and reorganize information without overload. Seeing REM sleep as a recurring process also helps explain its resilience. When one REM sleep period is shortened or interrupted, the brain does not abandon the function. It compensates by adjusting subsequent cycles. The system is designed for continuity rather than perfection, prioritizing overall balance across the night rather than exact timing within any single cycle. This perspective aligns with how biological systems tend to operate more broadly. Processes that are essential but delicate are often distributed across time rather than concentrated into a single moment. REM sleep follows this principle, spreading its influence across the night in a way that supports stability and adaptability simultaneously. Importantly, the brain does not track these repetitions consciously. There is no internal countermarking how many REM sleep phases have occurred or how much remains. Regulation operates through feedback loops and chemical signaling, responding dynamically to current conditions rather than adhering to a fixed plan. The repetition is emergent rather than imposed. Understanding REM sleep as a repeating rhythm rather than a single event helps shift attention away from outcomes and toward process. It becomes clear that REM sleep does not need to succeed in any particular moment. Its value lies in persistence, in returning again and again, adjusting slightly each time, maintaining balance through continuity rather than completion. As the night progresses, these cycles continue quietly, regardless of awareness. REM sleep arrives, recedes, and returns, woven into the larger pattern of rest. This repetition is not something to observe or measure from the inside. It is simply the way the system sustains itself, gently and reliably, across hours of rest. One of the most striking features of REM sleep is how it combines reliability with variation. Each night, REM sleep appears according to a familiar pattern, returning in cycles that the brain has followed for years. And yet, no single instance is an exact copy of the last. Timing shifts slightly, duration expands or contracts, and internal activity changes in subtle ways. This balance between predictability and variation is not a flaw in the system. It is one of its defining strengths. Biological systems rarely rely on strict repetition. Perfect uniformity can lead to rigidity, while too much randomness can lead to instability. REM sleep occupies a middle ground. Its core structure remains stable, ensuring that essential processes continue, while small variations allow the brain to adapt to changing internal conditions. This balance helps maintain long-term flexibility without sacrificing reliability. Internal clocks play a central role in this process. Circadian rhythms provide a broad framework that shapes when REM sleep is most likely to occur, particularly later in the night. Within that framework, sleep pressure and chemical signaling fine-tune each cycle. The brain continuously adjusts based on how much rest has already occurred, how recently REM sleep has appeared, and what internal conditions currently exist. These adjustments happen quietly, without awareness, guiding REM sleep into place night after night. Variation also reflects the brain's recent history. Experiences from the day influence which networks are more active and which remain quiet. During REM sleep, this history shapes internal activity patterns, creating differences between cycles even within the same night. These differences do not disrupt the overall structure. Instead, they allow REM sleep to remain responsive, reflecting the brain's ongoing needs rather than following a rigid template. Researchers note that this variability becomes especially important over long periods of time, across weeks, months, and years. The brain encounters changing environments, routines, and demands. REM sleep adapts to these changes gradually, adjusting its expression while preserving its role. This adaptability helps explain why REM sleep remains stable across the lifespan despite constant external variation. Importantly, variation in REM sleep does not imply inconsistency in function. The underlying processes remain coordinated even when surface features change. Memory organization, emotional calibration, and neural flexibility continue to be supported, not by repeating identical activity, but by allowing patterns to evolve within a stable framework. This approach mirrors how learning itself occurs, through repeated exposure with subtle differences rather than exact duplication. The brain's ability to manage this balance reflects its broader strategy for maintaining equilibrium. Systems that support life must remain both reliable and adaptable. REM sleep demonstrates how this can be achieved through regulation rather than control. Instead of enforcing sameness, the brain allows variation to emerge within boundaries that preserve function. From this perspective, REM sleep is not something that must happen in a particular way to be effective. Its effectiveness lies in its flexibility. Each cycle contributes slightly differently, responding to context while remaining part of a continuous rhythm. Over time, these small differences accumulate into a stable pattern of rest and integration. As the night continues, This balance unfolds without effort. Predictability provides comfort. Variation provides adaptability. And together, they allow REM sleep to support the brain across changing conditions. This quiet coordination does not require attention or understanding. It simply continues, adjusting gently as time passes. As this idea settles, attention naturally moves toward how REM sleep fits within longer stretches of time. Beyond individual nights and cycles, REM sleep participates in patterns that extend across weeks and months. The next step in this exploration lies in examining how REM sleep interacts with long-term rhythms and how these extended patterns support continuity in the brain's functioning over time. Beyond the scale of a single night, REM sleep participates in rhythms that extend across weeks, months, and even years. These longer patterns are not always visible from one night to the next, but they shape how sleep adapts over time. The brain does not treat each night as an isolated event. Instead, it integrates sleep across longer stretches, allowing REM sleep to contribute to continuity rather than momentary correction. Researchers studying sleep over extended periods observe that REM sleep adjusts gradually in response to sustained changes in routine or environment. When schedules shift consistently, the timing of REM sleep shifts with them, finding a new balance rather than resisting change. This adaptation does not happen immediately. It unfolds slowly, reflecting the brain's preference for stability through gradual adjustment rather than abrupt reorganization. Long-term rhythms are also influenced by seasonal and environmental cues. Variations in light exposure, activity levels, and daily structure subtly influence sleep architecture. REM sleep responds by redistributing itself within available sleep time, preserving its role even as external conditions evolve. This responsiveness allows the brain to remain aligned with the environment without sacrificing internal coordination. Importantly, these longer rhythms reveal that REM sleep is regulated cumulatively. The brain tracks recent history, not just immediate conditions. If REM sleep has been consistently limited over several nights, compensatory adjustments may extend beyond a single recovery period. This extended response suggests that the brain evaluates balance over time rather than night by night, smoothing fluctuations through ongoing regulation. The influence of long-term rhythms also helps explain why REM sleep patterns feel familiar even as life changes. While surface features of sleep may vary, the underlying structure remains recognizable. This continuity supports mental stability, allowing the brain to integrate experiences across time without needing to reset entirely. REM sleep contributes to this continuity by repeatedly revisiting internal organization in a measured way. Neural systems benefit from this extended perspective. Plasticity and adaptation require time, and changes made too quickly can be destabilizing. By spreading adjustment across many REM sleep periods, the brain ensures that change remains proportional and integrated. Each cycle contributes a small influence, and together they support long-term coherence. These long-term rhythms also reflect how sleep interacts with memory and identity. Experiences are not processed once and then archived permanently. They are revisited repeatedly, shaped and reshaped as new information arrives. REM sleep participates in this ongoing refinement, allowing the brain's internal model of the world to evolve without losing continuity. Crucially, this process does not depend on consistency from the outside. Even when days differ widely, the brain uses REM sleep to maintain an internal thread. This thread connects past experiences with present conditions, allowing adaptation without fragmentation. REM sleep supports this connection quietly, without drawing attention to its work. Understanding REM sleep within the context of long-term rhythms highlights its role as a stabilizing influence across time. It is not limited to nightly repair or short-term adjustment. Instead, it contributes to a broader continuity that allows the brain to change while remaining itself. This balance between change and persistence is one of the quiet achievements of biological regulation. As this understanding settles, attention naturally begins to loosen from structure and explanation. The next step in this exploration lies in allowing these rhythms to fade into the background, shifting away from analysis and toward rest itself, as the night continues to unfold without effort. As this quiet exploration comes to a gentle pause, there is nothing left to hold on to. The ideas about REM sleep, rhythm, regulation, and time can soften now, settling into the background where they belong. The brain does not need understanding in order to rest. It only needs space, and that space is already here. Throughout the night, systems will continue to coordinate without effort or awareness. Cycles will repeat. Activity will rise and fall. REM sleep will arrive and recede as it always does, guided by patterns older than thought. Nothing needs to be followed, measured, or remembered. The rhythm carries itself forward. Rest does not require attention. It does not ask for clarity or conclusions. It unfolds gradually, layer by layer, as the body settles and the mind loosens its grip. Thoughts may drift, fade, or wander without direction. Each is allowed to pass without being followed. There is comfort in knowing that nothing more is required. The night does not demand participation. It simply continues, offering time and quiet in equal measure. Breath follows breath. Moments pass without being counted. If you're still listening, you can let go now. The science can rest. Curiosity can sleep. Everything that needs to happen will happen on its own, supported by rhythms that have always known the way. Thank you for spending this time here. Sleep well.